Schumacher has got an entirely novel line into the pit lane for refuelling, which I think is going to give him an advantage.
Could well be right. Interesting, looking at the top four cars, they've stabilised, really. 1 minute 25.1 for Michael, 25.1 for Mika, Eddie Irvine in third at 25.3, and Coulthard in fourth at 25.2. So they really have stabilised on the same pace now as we expected. Mind you, Michael's on a stormer on this lap.
And this man is superlatively fit. So that is Zanardi, and Zanardi is in 10th place, followed by Wurz. You can see they're all tied up together. Johnny Herbert is 12th behind Wurz. Then there's Mika Salo in the BAR. Mika Salo, incidentally, taking the place of Ricardo Zonta, the Brazilian driver who hurt his leg in practice from the Brazilian Grand Prix. And Mika Salo is very much a Monaco expert. There he is.
Yes, you somehow get mesmerised following other cars around here. You're steering in their rear wing, you're breathing in their exhaust fumes, and you just end up just following them if you're not careful, instead of attacking them. There's very little you can do. They're always going to be on the throttle, at least a car length ahead of you. So you've got to force them into making a mistake somehow, and then try and capitalise on it, or wait for the back markers. Meanwhile, Michael Schumacher, a new fastest lap of the race, a 1:23.9. and increased his lead to 4 seconds, 7/10 of a second faster than Häkkinen on that lap.
Now, let's discuss a rumour. McLaren have got not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 cars here. And the rumour is that one of them is set up for them to be able to go right the way through the race without a stop.
Never in a month of Sundays, Murray. We won't get enough fuel in that. And if it was raining and they were going slowly, they might, but it's not, and they're not.
Well, let's take care of that one. The rumour was that they put a bigger fuel tank in it. So we watch Zanardi, followed by Wurz, followed by Johnny Herbert. Then there is a gap to Mika Salo. Alesi in the Sauber. Pedro Diniz in the other Sauber is in 15th place. Olivier Panis not going at all well. He hasn't gone at all well the whole weekend in the Prost car. And his teammate Jarno Trulli is way ahead of him in 7th position. Chicane, Zanardi. Wurz. Zanardi, incidentally, hasn't gone as well as I've said before. That's Mika Salo, Alesi, Diniz, Panis, Tora Takagi in the green helmet, in the black arrows. The Japanese driver is in 17th position. I said that Zanardi has not gone as well in the first 3 races as we hoped and expected he would, the double American champion, although of course he's very Italian. And he was hoping to regain his reputation here at Monaco. Hasn't done so far. He started well down the grid, and he crashed his car this morning, as I said earlier on, and they've had to completely rebuild that car. He started from 11th position on the starting grid, right down, halfway down the grid, and that's a major problem because you're in amongst traffic right from the start. Michael Schumacher. Just watch the way that car rides.
Yeah, Michael just dances the car around here, but it was clear to see right from the beginning of practice that both Ferraris are working well. It's always difficult to get the nose of a Formula One car into such slow and slippery corners, big camber changes, drains, zebra crossings and all that sort of thing, and you just spend so long on the apex of the corner waiting for the front to come in. The McLaren hasn't been able to do that, and I think Michael's car will be much better balanced as the race goes on. I think he'll keep his front tyres in better shape, and he's taken a second lap out of Häkkinen now, and that lead is up to 5.6 seconds. You can see for yourself, and Michael is just in his element on this kind of acrobatic racetrack. But at the same time, with that new front wing on the car and other things they've clearly done to it, the car is just working beautifully. We use the word balanced in Formula One so much because we mean that the front and the back end are sliding consistently. The car's always four-wheel sliding through corners. Doesn't sometimes look like it, but marginally it is, and we like it to slide front and rear together. And well, the Ferrari just seems that little bit better than Häkkinen. David Coulthard there smoking the McLaren, the Mercedes-Benz engine smoking there on Coulthard's car, as you saw. Sometimes happens when you're off the throttle, Murray, and reapply the throttle. You get some pressure in the engine, but that is not a good sign.
Well, already Michael Schumacher, who's made the fastest lap, we're on lap 9, incidentally, made the fastest lap on lap 8, and it's only half a second slower than Mika Häkkinen's fastest lap last year, notwithstanding the fact, as I keep saying, and it bears repeating, that this year the cars have got 4 groove front tyres. Last year they had 3 groove front tyres, therefore less rubber on the track than there was last year, therefore less grip. And it's yet another indication as we watch Jarno Trulli battling against Fisichella for 7th position. We take a break.
Welcome back. Let's have a look after 11 laps. Michael Schumacher absolutely flying. Häkkinen, Irvine, Coulthard, Barrichello and Frentzen are the top runners. Just because we got away so quickly tonight, I'll just go through this. Finally, the silly Caesars arrived early this year with rumours already rife that Eddie Irvine will leave Ferrari at the end of the season. Now, the most common story has the Ulsterman replacing a retiring Damon Hill at Jordan with Jarno Trulli or Pedro Diniz filling the number 2 seat at Ferrari. Now, the fresh rumour mill that's been turning over this week that David Coulthard may also be replaced next year by Greg Moore out of the American racing season. So a couple of big rumours there, AJ.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand that. Eddie Irvine gets on extremely well with Michael Schumacher. Last year, you'd probably have some credence to that rumour, but this year I think he's driving very, very well. He's the perfect backup driver to Schumacher, as we've seen tonight. He's done a brilliant start. He's only 3rd behind Häkkinen. I think they could do a lot worse and keep him for next year. As far as Moore going to McLaren, I don't hold much credence in that, to be honest.
Surely if Coulthard was going to make a move, Williams would be the strong move there.
He could do a lot worse, couldn't he?
All right, let's go back to Murray.
A bit of a clumsy one, but Damon's big enough to admit, I think, that it was his fault. But as he said, what else is he going to do? Probably he could have waited a little bit further into the race, I think. 78-lap race, and he was out after 8 of them. I think you have to have a bit of patience here. But I think at the moment, Murray, Damon's got a lot more frustration than patience.
Well, I was just going to say, enormous frustration. He was terribly downhearted, understandably, that he started as low as 17th. Particularly as he went 5th fastest this morning. Nothing wrong with the car. He just slammed it into the barrier at the Rascasse, just there, as a matter of fact, yesterday, and shook himself up pretty badly. And if you lose time on setting up a car here for qualifying, you never, ever get it back. We're watching David Coulthard. He's 15 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen now, with Coulthard in 4th position. And the truth of the matter, I have to say, unless I'm missing something, Martin, is that the McLarens are just not as good as the Ferraris at the moment.
Well, I think that he's 15 seconds behind Schumacher rather than Häkkinen, but I think it's clear they're not handling as well around here. And I think pole position yesterday, you saw the elation, and there was an element of surprise, I think. It was a stunning performance right at the end there by McLaren. There's Coulthard's car smoking.
Smoke again.
I mean, sooner or later he's going to run out of oil, unfortunately, with that one. But I think it's also, it seems to me, the McLarens, the pace is not quite right somewhere. I think you'll find those McLarens are running a huge amount of fuel. So let's see how it unfolds. But yeah, Michael clearly does have the pace.
It's early days yet. We're on lap 13. As I said, the earliest pit stop that we had last year was on lap 31. The latest was Jacques Villeneuve on lap 54. And it could well be, as you rightly say, as we watch the 2 Saubers going round together, of Jean Alesi, and now we're with Jean Alesi now. You talk us round. This is marvellous, Martin.
Yeah, so over the pavement, they were on board with Panis in the Prost, and we're no longer on board with Panis in the Prost, but we'll lose certainly on board as he goes through the tunnel. Surprising me how many drivers are running with tinted visors. Most of them have clear. It's the only way around here, because you get through, you've got to see through that tunnel. But on board with Panis now, going down to Tabak, up to about 140. Watch the barrier on the left. You get so close to that, and then slide the car over those white lines, picking up the little curbs, and now into the second part of the swimming pool. The back will dance around a little bit, have to climb over the little pavement on the inside. Now Rascasse, it's so easy to outbrake yourself into here, because you're braking, turning, downshifting. Now look, he's got his arms completely crossed there. You'd probably fail your driving test if you did that, but that's the only way to drive a Formula 1 car. He was virtually on full lock there.
Zanardi ahead of them, 10th position. And news from James Allen in the pit lane.
Well, Murray, I have to say I agree with you both completely on this strategy situation. The lost time here, which is, in other words, the time it takes to come into the pits, how much you lose relative to your opponents, is, for one-stoppers, which they are, is about 24 seconds. You're stationary for about 10 seconds of that time. Now, Michael Schumacher had a 6-second lead after 10 laps. So he's bang on target to come in around lap 40 and be able to resume in the lead. I agree with Martin. I think Ferrari have perceived the advantage they have over McLaren and figured that McLaren would probably put over 100 kilos of fuel in at the car at the start. They're going to bring him in sort of a little bit earlier than McLaren. And, of course, as Martin was saying earlier, the track will come to Schumacher later on in the race. The more rubber goes down. So at the moment, they're in the driving seat for sure.
Yes, it is a question of how long they spend in the pits. You're right, James. But it's also much more importantly around here is track position. You must always have your man in front because it is impossible to overtake another car of similar speed unless the driver makes a mistake. So I think at the moment, as you say, they'll be looking to get Schumacher far enough ahead to make sure he's always leading the race.
Schumacher coming up to lap the Minardi as they go to the chicane. Marc Genet moves over. Well done, Marc. Moves over, and that's Ralf Schumacher behind him in the Williams. You'll remember he had a collision with Damon Hill. He's rejoined. He's in 19th position.
Well, at that rate, Murray, he's going to get lapped 6 times. Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, he was about 7 seconds off the pace this morning, Marc Genet, the Spaniard who's new to Formula One in the Minardi. Of course, although the Minardi has got a lot less power than the others, it doesn't matter so much at Monaco, but it still matters a lot. And their team is very underfunded compared with the big wheels at the front.
Now, this is interesting. The 2 fastest cars on the last lap were the 2 McLarens, which I think somewhat confirms my view they're carrying a lot of fuel. And Coulthard now in the 23s, as was Hakkinen, which is very close to Schumacher's fastest lap. So maybe, just maybe, those McLarens are coming back to the drivers. Now they're shedding a load. Every 10 kilos of fuel they put in the car cost them about 1/4 of a second per lap. And small tolerances, it's the laws of physics. You can't get around it. And that's why they tend to go better as the fuel load goes down.
Lap 16 out of 78. Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari leads Mika Hakkinen by 8 seconds. Eddie Irvine is third. And look at that smoke again coming out of the exhaust pipe of David Coulthard's car. That is not meant to happen. It could well be, as Martin said earlier, that he's running dry of oil, and that'll cause a problem, to put it mildly, for the Mercedes V10 engine later. So Irvine in third position. The man you're looking at now, David Coulthard, is 15 seconds behind Schumacher in fourth position. Rubens Barrichello in the Stewart is still fifth ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Jarno Trulli is catching Frentzen from 7th position. Fisichella is 8th. Jacques Villeneuve in 9th position. He started 8th. Alexander Wurz in the Benetton is 10th. Then Johnny Herbert ahead of Mika Salo 12th. And there is the arrows being passed by Eddie Irvine, coming towards a third position in the Ferrari.
As of course David Coulthard was chasing Hakkinen down here last year and his engine launched itself, so he's going to be pretty unhappy if it happens again. But it wouldn't surprise me, would it, you, Murray? Wouldn't surprise me to see that engine go.
No, it would not. I'm sort of waiting for it to go all the time, because I notice, as you rightly say, that when he moves the accelerator in the appropriate position, that's when we get that puff of smoke. It's bad news. But let's watch very carefully if the producer stays with David Coulthard. Because Michael Schumacher, meantime, there he goes. Look at that. That's worse than it was last time.
Well, it's coming out of one exhaust as well, which suggests that there's a problem on one bank of the V10 engine. So Coulthard possibly living on borrowed time. That's a view of the 2 bosses of McLaren, Mansour-Ojah on the right, Ron Dennis on the left, and they'll be studying that blue smoke. Probably with some more fear than we are even.
Now, Ferrari had an enormously reliable car last year. They've got a very reliable car this year, although Eddie Irvine had an engine problem which took him out of the San Marino Grand Prix. The reverse seems to be the case with McLaren, because Hakkinen's only finished in 1 race of the 3 this year, and the same applies to David Coulthard. Michael
Schumacher's just given them a response, a 1:22.9. His lead has gone up to 12 seconds, and he was a full 2.5 seconds faster than Hakkinen on that last lap. Hakkinen, I think, in traffic. So Michael, I think that's a very conscious thing from him. He got through the traffic well, he could probably, he knows that Hakkinen had to get through that traffic, and he's put a spurt on and pulled the lead up to 12 seconds.
3-1.